Let's hammer away, Andy. We start with the Thursday nighter, December 8th, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Las Vegas Raiders 5-7, 2-5 on the road. At the LA Rams 3-9, 2-5 at home. SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. We'll start with the line history here. This opened up with the Rams as 5.5-point dogs. They're now 6.5-point dogs. You can get them at 6 at some of these books. From a total perspective, it opened up at 43.5, and there's been a big move to the over. 12-cent move to the over. Take a look at the cash flow in this one. They've given the Rams slight line value here, 5,880 tickets in, but 72% of the tickets and 96% of the cash is on the Raiders. 84% of tickets, 98% of the cash on the over, and it's moving in the direction of the Raiders. We'll start with the Raiders coming off 27-20 victory at home over the Chargers. They're 6-3 against the spread over their last 9 games, and they're playing some pretty good football. Derek Carr was 16-30 for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. They're 3-0 since they lost at home to the Colts, and Carr cried at his post-game press conference. They're number 1 in yards per play over the last 3 weeks. Devontae Adams had a monster day, 8 catches for 177 yards and 2 touchdowns. Only 3 other players caught a pass. Hollins, Murrow, and Jacobs combined for 8 catches for 73 yards. Jacobs had another monster day on the ground, 26 carries, 144 yards, did lose a fumble. Raiders are 5-1 this season when he has 100 or more yards. He's sitting at 1,303 yards, the most in Raiders history through 12 games. Chandler Jones finally had the giant day that everyone had been waiting for with all the attention that has to be paid to Max Crosby. You would think that, there were high expectations for Jones that he has not delivered on. He came into this game a half sack on the year, a half sack through 11 games. He finished with 6 tackles, 2 for a loss, 3 sacks, 1 pass defended, and 5 quarterback hits. 32-year-old first-round pick of the Patriots back in 2012. Starting to show something. 49ers continually got pressure on Herbert. 5 sacks, 14 quarterback hits. They're playing good football. There's no way around it. Rams come in off their 6th straight loss, 27-23 home step back to the Seahawks. Wolford was a step up from Bryce Perkins. They signed Baker Mayfield today, but I don't see how he could possibly be in the lineup here for a Thursday night. There's just no chance, right? But Wolford has a neck injury, and the neck injury was what I thought maybe was, but I don't see how they could possibly put Baker in. Now, it's got to be Bryce Perkins, and Baker will watch for a week, if anything. Stafford went on the IR Saturday. His season's likely over due to bruising around his spinal cord. But Wolford finished 14-26 for 178 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. So he's day-to-day with neck soreness. The offensive line was the 12th starting combination in 12 games. It's just a mess. Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson out. Tutu Atwell led receivers with 2 catches for 48 yards. Cam Akers ran 17 times for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Powell looked pretty good. Ran 3 times for 45 yards. Caught 4 for 39 yards. Bobby Wagner was incredible. Just playing inspired football in his first ever career game against the Seahawks squad he spent 10 years with, made 6 All-Pros with. He had 7 tackles, 3 for a loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception. Rams finished with 4 sacks, 8 quarterback hits, and Aaron Donald sat out, high ankle sprain. He's not being put on IR. Cornerback David Long Jr. unlikely to play against the Raiders. He has a groin injury. And they've given up 6.2 yards per play over the last 3 games. So that's 28th ranked defense over the last 3 games. But we saw them shut down the Chiefs in the red zone. And they're better than those numbers probably indicate, I think. But let's ask you, Andy, Thursday nighter, big road favorite. Do you have any interest in it?
No interest in this game. Not only because I've sworn off Raiders games completely. That was another, just continually not making sense of what's happening with this team. They have some fun offensive weapons, so I think it was maybe Sky Dragon says, what has this team done to deserve to lay this many points on the road? Not a true road game. Like Los Angeles doesn't have any fans when they win a Super Bowl. Can't imagine it gets any better when they're 3-9. So it's going to be heavy silver and black in the crowd, even though it is in SoFi. I just can't lay these points, not knowing who the quarterback is. If it's Wolford, I like Wolford. I think Wolford's kind of good. Like he's a squirrely player who can make some plays, even missing Cooper Kupp and some of their other options, and Akers didn't look all that bad. So a slight lean towards betting the Rams, but I can't bet them on a Tuesday, having no idea if they're going to do something stupid like, if it is Baker, he's going to have such a limited grasp of the play calling and the playbook. That's going to be a disaster against a good pass rush up front. If it's Bryce Perkins, I don't think I have nearly as much interest in backing these Rams. So just kind of it's a team that's been a little rough against the run. Like, are they going to set Jacobs totals high enough ever? Like, he's still playing for a contract. He could, what you can demand for a contract when you lead the league in rushing, when you have like 1,800 yards. Like, he's still just continuing to truck on. I love that he's taking practices off. It's just not taking the extra hits during the week. He doesn't need practice. He's fine. So I'm probably going to look at some Josh Jacobs props or like a Prize Picks play on him and something else, but no interest with the quarterback uncertainty on the Los Angeles side.
What about the total sitting at 43.5? I guess that still you need to know what's going on at quarterback for the Rams. Do you agree, though, that that stat is a little misleading with the 6.2 yards per play? The Chiefs were putting up a ton of yards, but they were stopping them in the red zone, stopping them when it mattered.
It's kind of like the Jets box score. Like, yeah, the Jets were moving down the field, but kicking field goals. And yeah, and to Nutflush's point, Drew and I talked about this the other night too. It was the Bobby Wagner pump up game. Like, he got this Rams team is nowhere near as good as what we've seen out of them. Like, they got a high end performance, honestly, and it was the Bobby Wagner pumping them up kind of game. And I don't think he's going to do it versus the Raiders. I love Bobby Wagner, so maybe a little bit of a letdown spot. So. This is and yeah, Birdie pointing to the Raiders blowing double-digit leads. If the Raiders are up by a bunch, and it's not looking too bad from the offensive side, maybe a live bet on the Rams. Lord knows you'll be live betting it.
Well, Wolford is the piece of the puzzle. You're right. You need Wolford starting at quarterback if you have any interest in the home dog. So we'll have to wait and see at this point because of the neck issue still bothering him. There's just no chance Baker's under center. I don't know how that could be possible. So the idea would be Bryce. If Wolford can't go with the neck injury, it's Bryce Perkins with Baker Mayfield watching and learning. So at that point, now let's say it is Wolford at center or under center. Excuse me. Do we believe that then it can go over the 43.5?
Yeah. I think if you like the dog, you kind of like the over as well. If it's not, because if you do like the dog, I don't think it's going to be the kind of game script where Los Angeles really just limits Devontae Adams, limits Josh Jacobs, limits Derek Carr. I'm so old, but it's definitely a spot where that offense comes through. So I think if you like LA, you like the over.
All right, that is the Thursday nighter. Connor Mack will be hosting our live bet stream right here, Pub Sports Radio, 8 p.m. It pops off.